brand new Channel 5, WCVB TV.
Tonight, from the Channel 5 studios, WCVB TV celebrates 25 years of television. Programs and personalities past. Do you know these faces? 25 years of entertainment, sports, weather, News Center 5. Reminisce with Chronicle. Visit at home with our anchors. Some serious moments. And a few silly ones, too. 5 is 25, a silver celebration. And now, Chet Curtis and Natalie Jacobson.
Welcome to our 25th anniversary party.
You know, Natalie, I can't help, but every time you say 25th anniversary party, I start to shudder because it's hard to believe the 25 years have gone by. We've got a terrific 2-hour program in store for you tonight. I hope you'll enjoy it. In fact, I'm sure you will.
I think one of the reasons that it's gone by so fast is that we have packed so much in the way of new kinds of programming. We've tried new things. We failed a little. We've succeeded a lot, I hope. And tonight, in the next couple of hours, you'll have a chance to meet some old friends and new friends, people that you've grown up with. You've been part of this television station. We're also going to have a little bit of fun poking fun at ourselves.
Because if you've been in broadcasting for 25 years, you make a few mistakes. And unfortunately in our business, those mistakes are immortalized either on film or on videotape.
Or in people's memories.
Or in people's memories. So you'll see some of that tonight, too.
So please watch and join us and celebrate with us as we have some fun.
WCVB TV, the new Channel 5.
Television has been called the most sophisticated communications device in history.
You can see us nearly everywhere. You can feel our spirit in the air. New England's right at home with Channel 5. Spending time together every day. We reach out and listen to what you say. Thanks to you, our number comes alive. New England's tastes are changing, and Channel 5's arranging the new tradition, Channel 5 and you.
I'm Dr. Timothy Johnson, and I invite you to join me here on Medical Call.
Hello, I'm Arthur Miller, and welcome to Miller's Court.
Give me another chance, will you?
Hi, I'm John Willis.
And I'm Janet Langhart.
Good morning, New England. I'm John Willis.
I'm Eileen Prose. Welcome to Good Day Live.
Let's find I don't know the things we do. When it happens. Good day, remote host.
Meet the people of Chronicle. Chet Curtis, Donna Downs, Gene Blake.
Peter Mahegan, Mary Richardson, with Andrea Hall and Mike Barnacle. With Liz Bruner, New England's nightly news magazine.
Next stop, Boston.
Rolling up our sleeves because we care. Coming through, New Center 5, just for you. New Center 5, we make an extra effort and it shows. 5's got the spirit that's giving you 105. Got the spirit, 5 gives 105%.
WCVB TV, Boston.
Well, that was a pretty fast-paced look back at 25 years of television history. We're going to slow things down just a bit, give you an opportunity to take a closer look at some of the people and the personalities who have been a very important part of this television station for the past quarter of a century.
But to really understand where we've come from, we need to go back to the beginning of television here in Boston. Here's our colleague, ABC's Peter Jennings.
Television came to Boston in 1940, W1XG TV, Channel 1, with studios on Brookline Avenue near Fenway Park. The transmitter, this is it, broadcasting from high atop the Sears building for 1 full hour every night. Of course, not many people had television sets, and so early couch potatoes had to watch here, or at select hotel lobbies where the experimental signal was received and transformed into moving pictures. How amazing it was. That was the beginning. But World War II brought that television experiment to an end. Not until 1948 did WBZ bring television back to the city. Their first broadcast, Archbishop Richard Cushing and the legendary Mayor Curley, who saw the future.
Is going to become a part of the life of the American people, namely television.
But the big early hit on Channel 4 was... And 13 days after BZ went on came WNAC TV Channel 7 from the old Buckminster Hotel. Their kids show, Major Mud.
He's going to never do that. You stop it.
WTAO Channel 56 signed on in 1953 and Channel 2 WGBH in 55. And then in 1957 came WHDH Channel 5. No relationship, by the way, to today's WHDH TV or the Channel 5 you are watching right now. Still, this is where WCVB's story begins. The old Channel 5 was owned by the Herald Traveler Corporation, which also had a newspaper and a radio station in town. They started up in the Payne Furniture Building in the Back Bay. And then in 1960, the station moved to Morrissey Boulevard. This is Film of Moving Day, and that's Don Gillis right there. Some pretty memorable television was produced here. Frank Avruch was Bozo the Clown. But the old Channel 5's right to broadcast was not secure. The Federal Communications Commission had granted only a temporary permit, and there were local groups who thought they would do better.
The opponents said it wasn't fair that one owner should have a newspaper, a radio station, and a television station, all in the same market.
There was also the issue of the now infamous $100 million lunch. A Herald Traveler executive reportedly brought up the Channel 5 license issue while dining with a member of the FCC. The station's opponents were outraged at an alleged attempt to influence a commissioner. The stakes were high. $100 million in assets were on the line.
And the FCC went back and forth over this issue for 13 years. Appeals and appeals upon appeals, and finally the license was revoked.
The license for the new Channel 5 was awarded to BBI, Boston Broadcasters Incorporated, an idealistic local group which had guaranteed to produce an incredible 50 hours of local television a week. It was a huge undertaking that began modestly at 3 a.m. 25 years ago today.
Good morning, world. This is WCVB TV, Channel 5, Boston, Massachusetts.
The station really got the license based on its promise to do community-based local programming, to be the community station, to do TV for the people, of the people, by the people. and we did that, and they made good on that promise tenfold.
How many people get an opportunity to be a part of putting something brand new on the air? I remember so much excitement from all of the people that were here.
Boston, Boston.
You know, if that new tunnel were a reality now, I would have gotten home before my car went on the fritz.
Where do you live?
Beverly Farms.
No kidding, we're neighbors.
Really? Where do you live?
Revere!
The very first day we went on the air with the house call program, they were still working on finishing off the studio. There was a lot of noise and activity around, and so it was still obviously very much underway. All of us who are privileged to be parents are concerned about raising our children.
There was a feeling around here that you could try things, you could experiment, and you didn't have to be afraid to fail. So people were doing things, exciting things.
We've got to send a message to big government bureaucrats who waste our money on frills and then pocket what's left. If they can't spend our tax money wisely, then by damn, they won't have it to spend.
If you offered an idea and it went down the tubes, you didn't think, oh man, where am I working next week? No, the management here said, try it again. Okay, it didn't work.
Midnight Bus, Livingston Taylor and band.
Oh yeah, great local TV. We did more local television, I think, than any major market station in the country. More live shows came out of there than any other station in the country, including New York.
So many memories there, Chet.
Sally, it's hard to believe that all of that programming was coming out of one small studio that was really active almost 24 hours a day.
Sure was. This used to be a big Caterpillar warehouse facility, a repair facility for bulldozers, if you can imagine that.
Now, of course, over the years, we have added to the facility. In fact, we've added this huge studio, which has been the setting for so many programs, telethons, and other things that we've done over the past 25 years.
We'll continue to look back and share this with you. You've been part of this as we continue with 5 is 25.
One of the early local programs on Channel 5 was The Nature World of Captain Bob. Captain Bob taught our young viewers to appreciate nature through art. Today, Bob Cottle is retired and lives on Block Island. Coming up later, Susan Warnick leads a tour of Channel 5. But next, WCVB's story continues with Tom Ellis, John Henning, and Eileen Prose. 5 is 25, a silver celebration, brought to you by your New England Jeep Eagle dealers and by the new 105.7 FM WROR with the songs you remember from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and by NYNEX.
Time together every day. We reach out and listen to what you say. Thanks to you, our number comes alive. New England's tastes are changing, and Channel 5's arranging the new tradition, Channel 5 and you.
Remember that promotion and that giant 5? We used to drag that thing all over New England.
You might remember the Good Day Show used to take it everywhere it went throughout New England.
Happy to see it got a new paint job, Natalie. It used to take about 4 crew members to move that 5.
We continue with our look back over these past 25 years. Here once again is ABC's Peter Jennings.
Yes, on the new Channel 5, there was news, and part of the original team,
Good evening.
John Henning, now a Channel 4 man. Chet Curtis paid a visit to the competition to talk over old times.
One of the, I think, most interesting bits of television trivia in New England is the fact that you were the man who did the last newscast on the old Channel 5 WHCH, and then you did, a few hours later, the first newscast on a brand spanking new television station, WCVB. What was that like?
Well, it was different. I mean, at 11 o'clock you were CBS and you were on Morrissey Boulevard in Boston. 6 o'clock the next day you were ABC, Channel 5 at TV Place in Needham. And the equipment was new, it had been untested, some of us had never worked together before. We had trouble with the teleprompter. And then the lead story was Mike Taibbi, who had never been on television news before, covering a riot at Walpole Prison. He came back, I started the broadcast, good evening, etc. This report from Mike Taibbi, and his film broke. And he looked at me, and I could see this fear go through his eyes.
What do I do now, Coach?
But quickly they got the bugs out of the operation and went about the business of news, which in the early days was anchored exclusively by men. Until one Thanksgiving Day when the news director accidentally gave all the guys the day off. So who would anchor? Reporter Natalie Jacobson.
I wasn't an anchor. The last thing in the world I wanted to do was anchor a show. I was petrified. And I will never, ever forget sitting in the newsroom with a pile of script that seemed this big. My heart pounding, and they were playing the opening music, and I thought, my jaw won't move, I can't talk. And Tony Tawa, who was a cameraman at the time, said to me, "What's the matter, Natalie?" I said, "I'm scared." And he said, "Gee, don't you do a story every day for the news?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, what's in front of you?" "Just a bunch of stories, and you can only read them one at a time." Tony saved my life. With that, they're saying, and now, WCVB, blah, 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 News Center 5, or whatever we called ourselves in those days. And I took a breath, and I got through it.
The Early News is a presentation of WCVB News and Public Affairs. Portions pre-recorded.
In the ensuing years, the news department grew in size and technology, a far cry from the early days.
An attractive 21-year-old woman.
Do you recognize that face? Yes, Tom Ellis. In 1979, he returned to Boston.
Jim Thistle, who was the news director, invited me to come and join Chet and Natalie and the rest of the gang.
Now, Tom Ellis.
And I'm going to tell you, that was such a thrill for me. Channel 5 always had a good reputation and was right on the verge of being the dominant station as far as news was concerned in Boston.
Channel 5 was coming on strong for that all-important #1 news position in the city, but BZ was hanging on.
Whatever we did, we couldn't seem to just get that extra rating point. They'd beat us at 6 and 11, rating period after rating period. So finally, when we did have a successful rating, and we did beat them, you can bet we felt good about it, because it's good to win, but also because we knew we had beaten a fierce competitor.
Tuning in together, Channel 5 and you. Tuning in together, knowing what to do.
We had a strong commitment. Bob Bennett, who was the general manager, kept saying he was going to do everything within his power to make it the best station in the country.
And eventually, he did.
I think the New York Times was the first to say this might be the best local television station in America. Well, you know, it makes you feel pretty good that others whose job it is to criticize, critically look at television stations think so. I like to think we earned that.
And certainly Good Day was a big part of Channel 5. Longtime host Eileen Prose recently paid a visit to Natalie Jacobson in the old Good Day studio.
Prose, it's gotta be good morning, good day.
Here's my couch. What did you do with our set?
It's being refurbished. Listen, I wanted it just right for you, so we sent it to be reupholstered.
Did you?
And it didn't make it back in time.
It's in your den.
Good Day was a Boston institution for 18 years.
It's New England, it's Good Day.
1, 2, 3. Have you never been mellow? Have you never tried?
What are some special moments that come out for you?
I remember Tip O'Neill, an hour I spent with Tip, as something that I will never forget. And the stars, the celebrities, you know, Mel Torme and Debbie Reynolds, Jane Fonda crying, thinking about her dad. I mean, there were moments that were very human. Those are the ones I think I remember the most.
And I remember you singing.
Oh, please.
With plenty of your guests.
Yeah, always fun at 9 in the morning. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
And there's another voice on Channel 5 you know quite well.
Now showing at Cherie Theater in Boston. I came over when all of us from the old Channel 5 came over here. There were 9 booth announcers, 9 staff announcers. This is before automation set in.
Announcements were live then. Today they're on tape. Frank's still the voice.
Okay.
Of course, he's done much more. The Great Entertainment, Sunday Open House, and countless telethons.
Right, Frank?
Right.
Get on with it.
In 1982, the big news at Channel 5 was the station's sale to the Metromedia Company. And then, 4 years later, WCVB joined the Hearst family of television stations. And ownership was not the only thing changing. So was the television universe.
This market, I think, uniquely has a tremendous penetration of cable homes. You know, most people in this market, in our market, can turn on the television set and have a choice of 75 or 100 channels available, from home shopping to all sports to all news to, you know, you name it. So we've had to adapt.
But community programming is still a priority. News coverage has expanded. WCVB has far and away the longest list of public service programs in town. And Chronicle, well, only the nation's most ambitious local magazine program. Last year, WCVB won the prized National Gabriel Award for Station of the Year. Yes, the universe is changing, but CVB has not forgotten its roots. And speaking of not forgetting, it wouldn't really be an anniversary without looking back at 25 years of ABC.
On this September, this is the place to be. Just wait and see. Still the one that we plan to be. Still the one you'd like to see. You're still having fun, and we're still the one. You and me and ABC. You and me and ABC. Come along with ABC. We're reaching out, it's you and me. Come on along with ABC. It must be anybody saying it must be ABC.
This concludes our broadcast day.
ABC has been with us from the very beginning in 1972. Remember shows like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley helped us a little bit too.
Hey, Natalie, I have a trivia question for you. What do the letters CVB stand for?
Well, of course I know, but do you remember?
Well, of course, our colleague Clark Booth thought it was Clark Vincent Booth, but in actually, all stations east of the Mississippi begin with W. The C is for channel, the V is for the Roman numeral 5, and the B is for Boston, CVB.
So stay right here as we continue. 5 is 25.
Do you remember Anne McGrath? She was a Channel 5 news anchor back in the early 80s. Today, Anne lives in Palo Alto, California, where she works in public relations for Hewlett-Packard.
In a moment, Susan Warnick takes us on a Channel 5 tour. Then our News Center 5 reporters look back on their most memorable stories.
Parts of my job. To you, tuning in each day, we're New England, all the way, New England. Tuning in, together Channel 5 and you. Together Channel 5 and you.
For the last 25 years, you've probably come to know a lot of familiar faces here at Channel 5. This is one of my favorite pictures, of course. It was taken when I was 13. But we've got 5 on 5, that crew, Marjorie Aarons-Barons, and a great editorial staff. There's a lot of things that you've been watching on Channel 5, but there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes as well. I'm going to show you.
Stand by. Good afternoon, everyone.
Of course, you've seen our studio, but have you seen these? We have robotic cameras in here with minds of their own.
Watch yourself there.
Well, actually, the cameras are controlled from down the hall in the tech center.
This is the true nucleus of the operation, master control. This is really where it happens.
Well, we have a log and everything is scheduled. We make sure that all the times are correct, all the spots there, all the shows there. We take care of the transmitter, take care of the satellites. We take care of all the problems and all the changes of the shows.
So when people at home see Oprah, where is it actually playing from?
It's playing from one of these machines over here.
This is the newsroom. This is where it all happens. We have reporters and their desks with their computers in this part of the newsroom. And over here, we call this area the pods. People here, for example, are working on our evening newscasts, the 5, the 5:30, the 6 o'clock newscast.
But it's not just producers and reporters here. It's the folks at the assignment desk and photographers out in the street. And then, tucked away in these little rooms, are videotape editors.
Well, I can tell you some stories of some of the reporters. Leroy.
Well, maybe not. After the news stories are edited, then they come here to be played on the air. So if you decide to take a nap or go for coffee...
there could be a problem.
It could be a big problem.
And quite a few thousand people will know about it, too.
Now, a lot of our news stories come from around the world. How do we get them? Satellites.
Bobby, tell us how it works.
By magic.
Magic, it's a miracle.
But wait, there's more. Sometimes we need historical tape to tell a story.
This is the news library, the tape library. We have stories that go back. We save everything, and I mean everything. If we did a story 8, 9 years ago, you can find it.
And speaking of finding tapes, I don't know how the sports guys do it.
You know, the tape library may be computerized, but we go with the Oscar Madison approach. You know, people may think that we don't know where anything is with all this clutter, but watch my able-bodied assistant here, Paul. Paul, looking for that Parcells interview before the Miami game in September of '96. I don't know, Mike, why don't you check these? That's how we get it done. Sports Center 5.
And then our weather center, that's it there. We'll show you a lot more of weather and sports a little later. But now it's on to design. These are the people who create all the station's graphics. It's all very high-tech, using a computer they call a paint box.
Now this is what we affectionately refer to as the 5 and Dine. It's the Channel 5 cafeteria. I'm telling you, one of my favorite restaurants on the East Coast. So you get to see everybody here at the station.
I get to hear a lot of things.
Yeah. You see people first thing in the morning before they've had their coffee.
Before they had their makeup.
Next, meet the Chronicle gang. This is their office. Always a lot going on here. Producers screening tapes, managers discussing topics. Just like the news, there are photographers and videotape editors here, all working towards deadlines.
Drama and excitement of getting ready for local television news.
What are you doing in here, guys?
We're editing.
You're editing. What are you
Yep, you've seen the work that comes out of here. Promotions.
News Center 5 at 11, New England's #1 late newscast.
These are the executive offices. You have to be really quiet up here because they're working really hard.
Just kidding. Channel 5 has great managers.
This is the sales department at Channel 5. These are the people who actually sell the commercials that you see on television. This is Amy. Amy's obviously making a hot deal right now. She's on the phone.
Okay. And here's our traffic department. No, not cars. These folks coordinate all the commercials with all the programs. It's the station's crossroads, and that's why we call it traffic. And while we're talking about things running smoothly, we couldn't do it without the guys from office services or the people in accounting. Payroll and petty cash, credits and debits. Speaking of which, here's a bill you don't ever want to get.
Well, what's our electric bill for a month? About?
Roughly $45,000.
$45,000 for a month.
Why so big? Well, it's not because we leave the lights on. It's this thing, our transmitter.
We have the main transmitter here, a lock-in transmitter. Our backup transmitter here.
It's like I said, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here at Channel 5.
When that red on-air light comes on in the studio, the chances are pretty good you'll see one of News Center 5's reporters doing a story of the day. And what we've done is ask some of those reporters to take a minute to share with us some of their most memorable stories from over the years.
Few assignments over the course of my career combined the best parts of my job, like the trip I recently took to Africa. I got to see some amazing things, meet some interesting people, but most of all, report to you on some things that the rest of the media was ignoring.
There was the once-in-a-lifetime thrill of standing a few feet away from a wild bull elephant who seemed as nervous as I was. Or camping out under a full moon on the equator, only to hear the darkness ripped by the strange shriek of a tree hyrax. But the best part wasn't what we heard or saw, it's what we learned. The slaughter of African elephants was finally slowing down. Poaching was no longer profitable or safe. While the rest of the media was reporting that the slaughter was still underway, we were able to report that the news was finally going from bad to good. Sometimes our job takes us to ugly places, ugly news. For me, the payoff is traveling to fascinating places and bringing back stories full of hope.
My major assignments over the past 14 years at Channel 5 have included covering hurricanes in Florida and elsewhere, plane crashes from outside Pittsburgh to the Everglades and Long Island. But one story stands alone in my heart and mind, the bombing at Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, all the victims were from the same area. Everyone knew someone lost or hurt here. I'll remember the tragedy not through hard facts, but soft faces. Rebecca Anderson was the only volunteer to die here. Bailey Allman had given us some hope to cling to, but only briefly. She died 1 day short of her first birthday. Gloria Titsworth lost one child, another made it. And Edie Smith, who lost her sons Chase and Colton moments after she dropped them in the basement daycare center. 3 days earlier, the boys had been looking for Easter eggs.
What do you do when people ask you, do you have children? What do you say? Well, I did have children. My children are dead. What do you say? You don't know what to say.
Days later on the plane flying home, I cried and realized, like those who still live there, I will never forget.
I do consider myself very fortunate to have had the opportunities I've had as a reporter, to travel the globe covering fascinating stories like the release of the TWA hostages from Beirut, or the Pope in South America, or Fidel Castro in Cuba. But I need only come here to Newton to remember one of the most special experiences of my career.
She is a tiny but powerful presence. When Mother Teresa visited Our Lady Help of Christians Church recently, cheering crowds gave her an adoring welcome. News Center 5 carried the arrival live. As she came toward the front of the church, Cardinal Law saw me and started guiding Mother Teresa towards us. Mother Teresa approached me, and as I welcomed her to Boston, she touched my forehead and gave me her blessing. It was a stunning moment, and I was left hoping that just a little bit of her goodness had rubbed off with her touch.
Janet Langhart and John Willis were hosts of Good Day, New England's popular morning show. Today, John Willis is retired, living in Maryland. Janet Langhart continues a career in television and heads her own company. And if you thought you saw Janet at the State of the Union address, you're right. Janet is married to Secretary of Defense William Cohen. When we return, a visit at home with Chet Curtis and Natalie Jacobson. And then, oh, how those styles have changed. After these messages.
To Chet Curtis and Natalie Jacobson, the news comes first, which means some things come second.
Natalie, your TV's been ready for a month. Can you pick it up?
Mr. Curtis, your shoes have been ready 6 weeks. When you spend as much time researching, writing, and reporting the news as Chet and Natalie, you may get behind on the little things, but you get way ahead on the news.
Natalie, when am I going to see you?
Good evening. What other Massachusetts communities have done?
You sleep okay?
Yeah.
It's a typical morning as Natalie Jacobson and Chet Curtis start the day getting their 15-year-old daughter Lindsay off to school.
We have a teenager who goes to school, and we go to parents' meetings, and we go to teacher conferences and things like that. I mean, people don't look at us when we walk into a parent-teacher meeting as, oh, here come those television personalities. They look at us as Lindsay's parents.
You're watching News Center 5 at 6. Coverage you can count on with Chet Curtis, Natalie Jacobson.
The fact is, they are New England's most famous television couple, well known to viewers as Chet and Nat.
When you are local, you live in the community, and you mingle with people in the community, not only in the town or city in which you live, but, throughout the coverage area.
And we've always taken it as the supreme compliment that people feel comfortable to come up to either of us and tell us anything. What's going on or what they liked or didn't like, and we'll share a confidence. And gee, it's right. You're not a television personality to them. Sit. Good boy. People say, how do you do it? How do you work together? We never thought about it. We just did it.
What they did was get married. That was back in 1975, 3 years after they met. They worked together on Channel 5's Midday News.
So it wasn't like, the anchors of the 6 o'clock news were getting married. We were far from anchoring the 6 or the 11 o'clock news at that point.
And I think the other thing that made it work for us, too, is that one of us didn't come into the other one's business.
They may not have been primetime anchors, but their marriage made big news.
It became a very public thing. It's a little difficult to go through it knowing that it's going to make the front page of the newspaper.
I remember the romantic parts of it, like deciding where we would get married.
That was to be Boston's Old North Church. A year later, their television news duties expanded. Chet took on the 6 p.m. newscast and Natalie the 11, making her the first woman to anchor a nightly newscast in Boston.
But it was Channel 5's live coverage of Queen Elizabeth's visit to Boston that established Chet and Natalie as a formidable play-by-play team.
We sat in that chair at 8 o'clock and got up at 5:30. But it was so exciting. It was exciting on so many levels because no one had ever done it before. We'd never certainly done this before. It was the ultimate challenge.
Reaction was such that, you know, it made management look at us again in a little different light, and they started to put us together. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chet Curtis.
And I'm Natalie Jacobson.
Breaking new ground. It's something Chet and Natalie are used to. In fact, Natalie did something that no nightly news anchor in Boston did before her.
In 1980, I get pregnant, and in 81, had Lindsay. So everything kind of happened at once, and it was all very public. And the fact that I was older, I think gave people who also were older, meaning in their 30s back then was considered older, hope that they too could have a baby.
Now that Lindsay is older, Chet and Natalie find more time to do things they enjoy.
Ever since we got our ARP cards that I got,
Get out of
really
here. I
worried.
didn't get mine yet. I'm much too young.
In addition to working out several times a week, the couple finds time to enjoy Chet's favorite hobby.
For me, therapy, if you will, is flying. Someone said that's a very expensive hobby. I said, yeah, it is, but it's cheaper than a shrink.
I want to get the knife right in between, and I want to squeeze.
Natalie's method of unwinding is cooking, and she shows us how in her video called Natalie's Kitchen with Jasper White.
I love to cook. That was a legacy from my mother. When I was a little girl, we lived in a neighborhood in Chicago where there were no young kids, so I was literally tied to her apron there and had some fun with her in the kitchen.
After the fun, it's time to get to work. In at 3, done at 11:35.
I respect Chet's opinion, so if I have a question about, do you think this is well written? Did I choose the right word? Do you think I've got the right perspective here? I'll bounce it off at Chet first, before anybody else. And so there's that kind of mutual respect and camaraderie that works well for us.
You know, it just really has been a lucky run. And we have not always been dominant in the ratings, but we've won more ratings battles than we've lost. So on balance, it's been a terrific 25 years.
Looking back at some of the old shows on Channel 5 these past 25 years is very nostalgic. Not only have we changed in the years, but also the fashions and hairstyles have changed as well. Chuck Kramer is going to look back in his special way at how the fashions have changed the past 25 years.
Hey, look us over. Check out the plaid. If you never wore this, bet you're awfully glad. And even if this was you in '73, bet you were never insane enough to wear it on TV. Oh, how we piled on the patterns, laid on the grease, brought out the band lawn, called the fashion police. Over 25 years, there's a lot of ways to make yourself look dumb, and we used up every one. Hey, look us over, check out the hair. Very Mary Richards, but at least some hair was there. Thank God for Nagas and pure Naga hide. For turtleneck sweaters as large as this, a lot of turtles died. Remember, laughing is legal, scoffing's allowed. You might want some earmuffs, the shirts are awfully loud. We did Sergeant Pepper and Doogie Howser and the Brady Bunch. Were we mostly out to lunch? Apparently. One word of caution. Pause if you will. Lapel, points and collars, are sharp enough to kill. Neckties are toxic, colors can bleed. Left alone in a darkened room, the hats they tend to breed. And so we pour on the Rogaine, let out the pants, give up the Brill cream as the years advance. Though it's true, we worry much more about our image than we should. Did it ever do much good? Would I burn this if I could? Definitely.
Chuck's not alone. I'm going to burn those pictures before any future celebration show.
I'm going to join you in burning some of those old pictures as well. But you know, one of the spiritual leaders of WCVB was a fellow who's with us here on the podium
One
now.
of them, the spiritual
leader, and he's Bob Bennett, who was the founding general manager of this television station.
Bob, I think it's the ultimate compliment to you that as we look back over these years, and we say this all the time, this was a place where no one was afraid to fail. You could try stuff, and you could fail and start again. You've got to remember it that way, too.
I think the thing that really made Channel 5 was this incredible group of people that we inherited and hired. And also the fact that we really, there wasn't anything that we weren't willing to try. And all I ever tried to do was to create a working atmosphere where people like their jobs and like the people that they work with. And out of that, magic dust is sprinkled all over everybody, and it happened.
And I
Would you like to do it again?
Yes.
Let's do it. Actually, we still are doing it, and I think the wonderful legacy that you and so many people who have come and gone from the station have left is that we are still very much part of our community.
The two nicest things that's ever happened to this station, I'm talking to.
You always said the right things. Bless you.
Yes, sir.
Remember Keith Olbermann? He was a SportsCenter 5 reporter and anchor. Today, Olbermann is seen across the country as host of ESPN's SportsCenter. In a moment, more from our reporter's notebook. And no, it doesn't always go as planned. Channel 5 bloopers next.
Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
You know, Liz, hearing Chet sing reminds me you are quite a singer yourself, having sung at Celtics games and Patriots games.
Why, thank you, Mr. Boyd. Maybe Chet and I'll have to do a duet someday. What do you think?
Not a bad idea.
It would be a lot of fun, I think.
You know, from time to time, our reporters not only cover stories, as is our business, but from time to time, we also are the focus of stories as well.
You know, and that actually happened to Susan Warnick a few years ago, and it was quite a frightening experience for her. We continue now with our reporter's notebook.
Hard to believe it was 11 years ago I found myself on the wrong side of the law and the other side of the camera.
While investigating reports that Revere police looted a CVS, I came across an eyewitness. He agreed to an interview, and I promised him anonymity. So when the district attorney wanted to talk to him, I wouldn't reveal his name, even to a grand jury. A judge found me in contempt of court and sentenced me to 90 days in jail. I believed I was doing the right thing, refusing to divulge my source, having made the promise that I wouldn't. But I was also scared to death of going to jail, scared of losing my freedom. The public was overwhelmingly supportive. Even then, Governor Dukakis sent word that he'd intervene if necessary. Luckily, though, he didn't have to. The witness came forward, and the charges against me were dropped.
So often I cover stories of violence and crime. Because I frequently see our communities in crisis, the stories that have meant the most to me are times when neighbors unite in harmony. New England team spirit.
Thank you very much for your support.
At the top of the list, the 1990 visit of Nelson Mandela. He changed his country and galvanized our city in celebration. Nearly 250,000 people squeezed onto the Esplanade during Mandela's Boston visit, the largest crowd in the States to see and hear the former prisoner. I wasn't the only one with teary eyes as this 71-year-old man in the midst of a revolution took time to smile and dance. In the worst of times, it's good to take a minute to remember we are all neighbors with a vested interest in this place we all call home.
In 1978, there were 2 papal elections within a period of 2 months. And the WCVB was the only local television station in the world to cover both. The first of the conclaves elected the Smiling Pope, a delightfully affable Italian gentleman from Venice, Albino Luciani. The moment of his election on a beastly hot August Saturday afternoon was quite radiant, as were the superb pictures that John Premack and Bobby Carroll took of the poor people of God receiving the news with what could only be described as awe. John Paul I, of course, would be the September Pope, dead after only a month in office. So back we went to Rome for yet another papal election. This one raising a very different fellow to the eminence, John Paul II, the Polish Pope, whose impact was destined to be historic.
Those are certainly some memorable stories, but all of the reporters here at Channel 5 have some, well, rather painful memories of times that we were live on the air and things didn't go exactly as we had planned.
Sounds like time for the blooper reel, huh? You know, it's amazing how Channel 5 technicians turn into world-class archivists when it comes to saving the most embarrassing moments of anyone who's been on the air here. Let's take a look now.
Whoa. Buckle up, everybody.
Also in our news, the U.S. is seeking United Nations support for the military option in the Persian Gulf. President Bush hopes to see a vote this week. Okay. Speaking of scientists,
right along here, lose the earring. God, it's only 5:30 in the morning.
This is a News Center 5 update.
Good evening. Coming up within the hour on News Center 5.
Wisconsin man has gone public with the news that he now has two hearts beating in his chest.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yes, there are reports of a UFO landing in a small Russian town about 300 miles south of Moscow. According to the Soviet news agency TASS, 3 humanoids walked out of their spacecraft, they walked around, then they took off. They're all being described as being 10 to 13 feet tall. I just can't read the rest of it. Okay, you have to see our next story to believe it. It's about a Denver psychiatrist who has an interesting sideline. He hypnotizes frogs. Dr. William Steed is training the little amphibians to do all kinds of circus acts. The frogs are way beyond just jumping around. I can't read it. They do weightlifting tricks. I'm sorry.
We move on to weather this morning. And wait, Bob. Some days it works and some days it... Do you think you're starting the new year off? I'll come down to you.
Thank you very much. Somebody cut my legs off. I mean, nothing serious.
People ask, what is it about the News Center 5 team? The togetherness, the spirit?
Well, we're all dedicated reporters with a common goal.
To inform the public.
At midday, on the weekend, all the time. It's simple. We're a team. And if anybody knows about teams, we're professionals. We aim for 18. It's simple. We are a team. And who should know? Hit it. 23. We're professionals. We aim for perfection in our work, and sometimes it means helping each other out. Sure, chap.
Here's your chance of what to do this weekend, David. You were wondering. Whoops.
Whoops.
Oh, no, we've lost Jim. I hope. Are you all right, Jim? He'll be back in a second.
That's one for the Christmas wheel, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're playing press, play and record right now. Let's check out our forecast.
Here's a name from the past. Bill O'Connell hosted Candlepin Bowling and was a SportsCenter 5 anchor back in the 70s. Today, Bill is retired and resides in Fort Myers, Florida. Up next, a visit at home with Heather Kahn and Brian Leary's shot at the big time. After these messages.
Happy 25th anniversary, Channel 5.
But it's our people that help make News Center 5 so different. No one else has the style and color of a Bill O'Connell, Paula Lyons, or Chuck Kramer, or the unique perspectives that Joe Day and Jorge Quiroga bring to Chet Curtis and Natalie Jacobson's Checkpoint series. News Center 5, lively and informative.
You're watching News Center 5 at 5:30.
Good evening. Rhode Island Police.
Brian Leary and Heather Kahn anchor News Center 5 at 5:30. But reporting the day's headlines isn't all these anchors do.
Inner city middle school and high school students may need dormitories in order to make the program work, they say.
Both Brian and Heather are hands-on reporters as well.
People, I think of me as a news anchor. I think of myself as a medical reporter. Going out into the community to some of the best hospitals in the world, never mind the country, is such an opportunity to learn and to teach.
It's a great daily eye-opening experience to see how people live and the struggles that they endure.
Hey, Dave.
Clearly, work is important to Brian and Heather, but they each have busy family lives as well.
I always used to think only about my career, I have to be honest. I really thought that, okay, when I'm in my 30s and I've got my career all set, then I'll meet the guy, then we'll have babies. But life, you can't plan. Well, President Bill Clinton used Valentine's
Heather
Day.
grew up in Malden, and though she hasn't hit the big 3-0 yet, Heather is married, she's mother to 1-year-old Samantha, and she's expecting a second child.
Things did happen faster than I thought they would. I'm very lucky for that. You know, I count my blessings.
Samantha, look, where's the kitty? Where's the kitty?
Now that we have a daughter, we've realized what's most important in life, and that's family. And she just adds so much to my life and probably makes me a better employee.
Puppies?
It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, is to maintain a balance of being the best mother in the world to my daughter and the best employee in the world to Channel 5. Knock on wood, it's a balance that I think I've managed to strike very well, and one I will have to continue to work on because there's another baby coming. But lots of women do it. I mean, that's the reality.
You gonna show Mommy how you eat a green bean? Can you eat the green bean for Mommy? What a good girl.
My husband and I do not lead a very exciting life. We don't travel. We don't go to fancy dinners. We really choose on the weekends to be homebodies. And she's the reason. The reality is that the home life is really how I kind of identify myself, just a real person. And I happen to have a job where I'm on TV, so people see what I do every day.
But face it, being on TV is different. Brian says sometimes the notoriety of it all is amusing to his children, 11-year-old Caroline and 14-year-old Meg.
Oftentimes someone at the checkout counter at the grocery store will say, hey, don't I know you? And it runs the whole gamut from someone who is an avid viewer and says, yeah, I know you. And the next person that will say, well, are you Bruce Schwegler? And then the other person that will say, geez, I know you. Did we go out once? Or, what was it? So, and the kids think that's hysterical.
While work can be hectic, Brian considers himself lucky to have a close to normal schedule.
People will stop me and say, boy, you have just the wildest schedule. And I'm thinking, well, no, I don't. I go in about 8:30 or so. I get home most nights about 6:30 or so. That's a pretty normal job. Hey, Kale.
Spending time with family keeps Brian busy. But when he's not doing that, he tries to spend time on his other career, practicing law. Brian's a graduate of Harvard Law School.
I try to practice law a little bit, not to make money from it, but because of the intellectual stimulation and validation for having left this business to go to law school at great expense. I think I should practice law a little bit so that I don't feel that I wasted that time.
Before becoming a news anchor and reporter, Brian covered sports for Channel 5. But before that, Brian had a chance at the big time.
When I was 23, I was Marv Albert's fill-in for one season on the NBC TV Game of the Week. They used to fly me around the country just in case Marv couldn't make it to the game. Well, lo and behold, one day in Philadelphia, Marv couldn't make it to the game, so I was on coast to coast for a period of 20 minutes. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Leary, along with Big Five Hall of Famer Matt Kukas. And Matt,
Brian decided not to pursue a career in network television for one important reason.
You're never home.
Taking a look at other news from around New England now.
I really would find it difficult to work somewhere else. When I look around at the people I share an office with, I see Chuck Kramer and Clark Booth. whose work on a daily basis I can admire and respect. That's a very comfortable situation to be in, work-wise.
Tonight, Mauricio Pereira lies hospitalized in serious
I'm where I
condition
want to be
after
right now
rescuing his
in my
wife
life, and I just want to keep working on getting better at what I'm doing. And I think the key to success is really seasoning. It comes with time.
8 years ago, Jay Shadler was a News Center 5 reporter and anchor. Where is he now? Today, Jay is a correspondent for ABC News Primetime Live. When we come back, Reporter's Notebook, and who's at this party anyway? We'll show you in a moment. 5 is 25, a silver celebration. Brought to you by Lipton Tea, America's favorite tea. By Chrysler Plymouth New England. Come in and see what's new. And by New York Carpet World, the better carpet people.
At the top of the news, at the top of the hour, the top stories tonight takes us to the State House, where the status is still the same. Economic news from Washington was worse Wednesday. That's the second week we witnessed worse.
Do you ever get the feeling that some of the TV stations try to rush you through the news?
Just in, thank you.
On News Center 5, our special checkpoint team takes the time to tell you the complete story.
Would Proposition 2.5% partial payment to people unprotected by pension plans? Probably. Let's go to the phones.
Welcome back to WCVB's 25th anniversary celebration, our party right here from our Needham studio. We continue now with more from our News Center 5 Reporter's Notebook.
When I think of all the stories I've covered here on Beacon Hill, one really does stand out in my mind. Early in 1985, rumors began circulating that once again, a Massachusetts politician was thinking about running for the president of the United States. Now, that's a big story by any measure for a political junkie. But I also remember every step of Michael Dukakis' campaign in a very personal way. Michael Dukakis' first public hint of his White House ambitions came when he announced a trip to Asia. As governor, he needed foreign policy experience, so this was a well-publicized 2 weeks. 8 months pregnant, I flew to the other side of the world, leaving behind a nervous husband. It was my first trip to China, the country my parents immigrated from 40 years earlier. I met aunts who weren't fortunate enough to escape like my mother. 2 years later, by the time Dukakis was actually on the campaign trail, I was pregnant with my second child. My strongest memories, traveling to places like Florida and Iowa, and morning sickness in barnyards. The highlight of the campaign was Dukakis' riveting speech the night he accepted the nomination. The campaign went downhill from there, but the memories remain.
As a reporter, when the telephone rings late at night, it means only one thing, an emergency. So it was December 29th, 1982, when the phone call from News Center 5 took me here to Walpole State Prison, and a story I'll never forget. I arrived around 2 a.m. An angry inmate had taken a prison counselor hostage, and my job, it turned out, was to help negotiate the woman's release. Roberto Camacho had specifically asked for me, as he held 31-year-old Donal Murphy at knife point. I talked with Camacho on the phone until he agreed to release her if I read his statement live on TV, but Camacho reneged. 8 tense hours later, Murphy escaped when Camacho tried to burn the office down. It's been 15 years, but this life-or-death drama remains one of the most chilling stories I've ever been a part of.
Hurry up, Kip, you're getting slow. Come on, Warren, I'm getting old. You know, in '72, when this station signed on the air, I actually did work here, but not as a reporter. I just come out of my 1960s counterculture hippie phase, and I needed a job. And they gave me one as a... lumper. That's right, a lumper. I schlepped gear from assignment to assignment.
One of my first assignments back then was a Kevin White press conference. He'd just been knocked off the Democratic national ticket with George McGovern because Ted Kennedy objected. Not long after I became a reporter at Channel 5, the man who had held Kevin White down was making his Dream Will Never Die death march through the 1980 Democratic primaries. Senator Kennedy, at his best when the cause was lost. And 8 years after that, the Massachusetts Miracle brought us what became the national nightmare of the Michael Dukakis campaign.
So he came over and I said...
Tip O'Neill told us that all politics is local, but someone around here is always dreaming of going to the big show. Who's next? That's why you gotta keep watching.
You know, reporters always have such interesting stories, but I bet you as a weatherman, Dick, you must have some interesting stories as well.
Oh, you bet, Frank. I'll tell you, the weather's never boring around here, and we have some incredible storm stuff to talk about. But let's get back to the party. There's a lot of dignitaries and celebrities around here.
You know, our colleague Ed Harding has been mingling with the crowd, and I bet he is going to tell us who's at this party anyway.
There were more celebrities at WCVB's party than ever stayed in the Lincoln bedroom. They came not just to schmooze with Barry and Elliott of Jordan's Furniture, who are on Channel 5 so often the viewers think they're an anchor team, but to celebrate 25 years of broadcasting excellence.
Hey, this is the greatest party I've seen since the NFL party down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl.
Another heavy hitter in this crowd, former prize fighter turned state auditor, Joe DiNucci.
25 years ago. I think I was still in the ring, wasn't I?
I was going to say, I'm ready to go if you're ready to go.
I was a middleweight then. I don't think I can make that weight anymore.
Still, Joe DiNucci hasn't lost his punch, nor has Sam Gerson of Filene's Basement lost his pitch.
Do me a favor. This is my most favorite word ever. Say the word B-A-R-G-A-I-N for me.
Bargain.
See, that's the best. I want to know about the flip, though. Who did the flip?
Are you questioning it?
No, I'm just saying.
Barry's going to do it for you right
do
now.
it right now?
No, I just did one. I don't want to be redundant.
25 is also a hot number at the Mass State Lottery, celebrating their 25th anniversary this year.
It's remarkable 25 years, you know? Yours is the best lottery in the country. Ours is a pretty good TV station in the country.
We think
25 years?
That's 25 years. You know, we've returned about $6 billion back to the cities and towns in those 25 years, and Channel 5 has probably sucked $6 billion worth of advertising money out of the community in 25 years.
And enough politicians came to our extravaganza to get a quorum for a roll call.
Channel 5 is a community TV station, always involved when it's public service announcements. They're the first ones up at the bat to help out.
Today, it stands as really one of the benchmarks in the history of American broadcasting. And the proof is that the personality of the station today is identical to the personality of the station 25 years ago.
The wonderful thing about this station is the longevity of the employees and the community spirit. We love Channel 5 and what you've done out in the greater Boston community.
More than an end to a quarter century of service, we see this celebration as a renewal of our commitment to greater Boston. So, as they say on the celebrity party circuit, let's not say au revoir. Let's say hors d'oeuvre.
Don Fratangelo was part of the News Center 5 team in the late 80s. Today, Don has gone on to the big time, reporting for Dateline NBC. Next, Chronicle remembers its 15 years. And later, we'll visit with Don Gillis and Bob Copeland. Plus, more foul-ups, bleeps, and blunder.
Oh, hi. Hello.
What makes Chronicle so unique is the way it blends entertainment and news. It's truly a different window on New England.
If it happens anywhere in New England and it's worth exploring, we'll be there. With stories that make us think, make us feel, even make us laugh. Live, local, 5 nights a week.
Chronicle. 10 years after WCVB first went on the air, the station launched an ambitious nightly news magazine called Chronicle. The idea was to give viewers a window on New England they couldn't find anywhere else on TV.
And here we are, Peter, in 1997 with Chronicle celebrating its 15th anniversary and WCVB TV its 25th. From breaking news and politics to peaceful portraits of rural New England, our Chronicle viewers have seen a lot over the last 15 years. We asked Mike Barnacle to put it all in perspective.
When Chronicle went on the air 15 years ago, Chet Curtis, Gene Blake, and Donna Downs shared the anchor desk. Ronald Reagan, the amiable actor, was in the White House. Eddie King, the bumbling can-do man, was in the State House. And Klaus von Bülow, a bloodless aristocrat, was in a courthouse. O.J. Simpson was running through airports. We hadn't fought the Gulf War, but we were still in the thick of the Cold War. Yaz was still in left field.
And I hope I represented Boston and New England with class and with dignity.
Through the years, the faces have changed, but our purpose has remained the same: to entertain, to inform, to amuse. Think of Chronicle as New England's family album. Snapshots of the life and times around us, encompassing the whole range of emotions and events. We've covered everything from politics to pastry makers. We've shown a World Series title disappearing between Bill Buckner's legs, and the potential hometown president's chances disappearing in the turret of a tank. We've had breakfast with Joe Kennedy, sailed with Ted, and watched in awkward embarrassment as nephew William was tried and acquitted of rape. We had Charles Stewart, who murdered his wife and for a while killed a whole town in the process of one contrived and monstrously evil act. We've met some extraordinary people, too. Hong Fong Dong, a Vietnamese refugee who beat the odds to become a doctor. Mark Fetch, a Boston man who struggled nobly with AIDS. Dot Hill, a Waltham resident who led her hometown's marching band to Red Square in Moscow. Some spectacular scenery has been displayed on 15 years' worth of Chronicle shows. Our Main Streets and Backroads series has allowed us to bring you the majesty of Vermont, the raw beauty of coastal Maine, coastal Ireland, too.
I always say you live for a day. Yesterday doesn't matter. Tomorrow may never come. It's just a day.
We've traveled to Europe, Africa, China, Greece, and Israel. We've given you tips on where to find the best sandwiches and the worst traffic. We've laughed and we've cried.
That's what we need.
We've presented society's successes and failures, homeless people and families struggling to hold on to their livelihood. We've depicted society's dark shadows, too. The fierce conspiracy of crack and handguns that claims so many in our cities. We've tried to show that the young can flourish in schools where education is exciting, and that the old can still be eager, valuable participants in life. We've honored the near-silent contribution of those on the front lines, nurses, doctors, cops, school teachers, and involved parents, our true and often ignored heroes.
Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere.
The people who produce this show 5 evenings a week, the people you never see on TV, have for 15 years tried mightily to offer you a daily snapshot of our environment, our politics, our culture, our world. We've had some hits, some misses too. But 15 years after we began, we're still trying, filling our album with pictures for New England.
Worshipping together in a church that was built in 1832.
Here he comes, watch this! Man, there's a lot of space in this state.
Great memories for us here, Peter. And here now joining us is a man who created some of those great memories for us in his 12 years as general manager here at WCVB TV, Jim Coppersmith. Jim, it's so good to see you.
Oh, Mary and Peter, it's great to see you.
12 years is a long time, but any real highlights? What stands out for you as the big memories?
There is no one single memory. I only ever had 2 goals for this station. One, that we should be the most popular in Boston with the viewers, and second, if you were dumb enough to work in television, this would have to be the best place to work. And that was my only mission statement for the place, and I think, you know, that's still true. I've said for a long time that the future of local television is not on Wall Street, it's not on Madison Avenue, it's on Main Street. And I hope that this station never loses its love affair with Main Street.
Here's another Channel 5 alumnus who has gone on to network glory. Michael Gillen is Good Morning America's science editor, but he got his start in science reporting with us back in the 80s.
For News Center 5, I'm Dr. Michael Gillen.
Next, Sports Center 5 looks back, and a visit with the Dean of New England Sportscasters, Don Gillis. Catering for 5 is 25, provided by Calla Lily Caterers of Cambridge, a full-service caterer for the discerning social and corporate client.
I like a three-boy show.
I like parquet.
And the inside flag.
One thing's for sure.
I like mine. I like the garden when it rocks. I like the hometown crowd. I like Fenway's mighty socks. That's why I like Mike. I like Mike.
I'll be happy to be joining Jack and Bob on the 6 and the 11, bringing you the latest sports news and scores.
1972, Don Gillis, the Dean of Boston Sportscasters, kicks off the first quarter century of sports coverage at WCVB. And what a 25-year run it's been.
Uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there.
Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown! 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 To left field and deep and down he goes back and it's gone! Unbelievable! Underneath the DJ, lays it in! Right up one, knock it left! What a play by Bird!
All those scintillating moments preciously tucked away in our memories and archives. 25 years of sports history, as seen through the eyes of those who've made up the Sports Center 5 team. Gillis, O'Connell, Booth, Leary, Lynch, Ryan, Olbermann, Webb, Edwards, Dowling, and Harding.
In many ways, Boston is such a wonderfully wild sports market. You have a collection of professional teams that a lot of people care about. What gives an individual market its personality, its flavor, are the people who live there. Not the stories of the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Celtics, and the Bruins. They're the stories of you and me.
Here we go. Eighth inning out drive. Eighth out drive. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good. Run to 37 and a half. Relax and drive. Relax and drive.
There are some daredevil sports in the world, bullfighting and skydiving, just to name a couple. But going off this, the 90-meter jump, this takes the cake.
The Sports Center 5 Odyssey has taken us from the Olympic Mountains of Calgary to a South Shore football field, where the exploits of 2 midget teams were raised to Super Bowl proportions by the resonant voice of a legend.
The Hanson 11 not only survived the pounding, but seemed to thrive on it. Quarterback David Corkery finds number 23, Stephen Rogers, a 105-pound thunderbolt, who cracks his way into the end zone.
I think what really sets us apart is the way we cover some of the odds and ends, some of the odd sports, and really becoming involved in some of those odd sports. Like, for instance, I remember a story I did just a couple of years ago.
Words cannot begin to describe what this was like, but fear is a good place to start. And when he started turning this thing, I'm thinking, hey, this is no time to kid around here. Straighten this thing out and I'm serious, or I'm history, especially with this propeller right in front of me.
Through it all, it is the pure love of athletics that defines Sports Center 5's mission. From the little leagues to the big leagues, our commitment has been to inform, entertain, and occasionally inspire. And we can't wait for the next 25 years.
Well, I must confess, I sort of feel like Will Cordero standing with Ted Williams right now here. Here he is himself, the Dean, Don Gillis. And you wrote the blueprint for sports, and we're doing our best to carry on. But
you're doing a heck of a job, too, I'll tell you that. Yeah, it's when I look back at it, it's just kind of amazing, really, because I went from doing high school basketball at a little small station down in New Bedford, and I heard that there might be an opening, not for a sportscaster, but just for an announcer at WHDH. And I got in the audition, and I was lucky enough to win it. And I wound up doing the Celtics radio with Kurt Gowdy the next fall. So, I mean,
one of the things that impressed me the most is that you gave as much attention and importance to a Celtics-Lakers championship final as you did to a Tech Tourney championship game or a high school game on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, well, see, I was always a sports fan, and I loved high school sports, and, you know, I had good people who worked here and felt the same way. They didn't say, like, oh, well, that's only high school, or that's only this, and so forth. But, see, I had been on the other side. I had been just a fan. I thought it was fun at that time, and I'm sure you do now with all the tools you have to work with.
He's doing fine in Florida and on Cape Cod. The Dean, everybody, Don Gillis, great to have you back here.
Thanks,
I'm not
Mike.
ashamed to say you're one of my heroes growing up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll be back with more right after this.
Looking out for consumers is what Paula Lyons does best, and she did it for News Center 5 for 11 years. Today, Paula is working for the competition, still on Consumer Lookout, but for Channel 4. Don't touch that dial. Weather is next. From magic markers to the magic of technology in a moment. 5 is 25, a silver celebration. Brought to you by your New England Jeep Eagle dealers and by Osco. Count on people, people who care. And by MCI.
Happy 25th anniversary, Channel 5. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Some people just don't know how to listen. When you've got the best meteorologist in town tuned into you, you've got to tune into him.
Ralph, did you at least wear your galoshes?
I should have listened to Dickie.
Ralph, if you don't listen to your wife, who will you listen to?
Dickie. Dick Albert on News Center 5 at 6 and 11. Dickie.
And a lot of people are still listening to Dick Albert every day.
Well, that's for sure. You know, we talk a lot about the changing weather. Mark Twain once said he counted 136 different kinds of weather in one New England spring day. So that's the kind of challenge facing our weather forecasters.
Talk about challenges. Over the last 25 years, the technology of weather forecasting has really changed. Dick Albert takes a look back at the good old days and makes a projection about the future.
I do think that New England is, if not the toughest, one of the toughest.
Right up there.
Forecasts. It's certainly right up there.
You look at any textbook and, you know, where do all the storm tracks cross, you know, right over New England.
You can get from blizzards to heat waves to pretty severe thunderstorms to the threat of hurricanes.
I think, you know, we've certainly come a long way in terms of accuracy of forecast.
That's for sure. Over the last 25 years, the tools of weather forecasting have improved dramatically. I had a chance to reminisce with Channel 5's first meteorologist, Bob Copeland.
You know, you started when you almost had chalkboards on the maps. Isn't that right?
Boy, absolutely. Yeah, I started almost before they had weather maps.
Just a chance that over the weekend, from time to time, we could see a shower here, but most of the heavy action...
We had a big old slate board, I think. Actually, I think it was slate, or maybe masonite, you know, with a painted map on it. And we used various things like grease pencils and, you know, tempera markers and that sort of thing.
Thanks to computers, those days are long gone.
When we went into the computer, wasn't that strange with the green wall, the green monster,
oh,
so-called?
Gee, I'll say, yeah. It took me a long time to get used to that, you know, when you know, I wanted to go left and my arm was going right, that sort of thing.
We've been watching this back in the Connecticut Valley all morning, and we've seen it definitely creeping this way. Yeah.
Mark Rosenthal is going to explain that green
Oh, is he?
wall.
I have
Yeah.
been wondering what it's all about, so I'd be anxious to hear this.
You know, folks, I bet you didn't know that when we're on TV, there's actually no map behind us. I realize you're seeing a map behind us, but what is behind me is called a video wall. It's just a blank green screen, and there's a camera in front of me shooting this green screen, and everything that it sees on the green screen, it just overlays. So it's seeing temperatures right now. I'm also holding this clicker, so when I just hit the button, it's going to change the frame. And we can look at New England temperatures as well. Now, how can I actually see what I'm talking about? Right in front of me, there's a big camera with a very large monitor. I can see me, I can see the map. So what I need to do is actually look into the monitor, find out where I am, and then turn around and point to a blank green screen. It's definitely weird.
Sunny sky. And then we'll watch this
All the
little
computer
guy
weather
travel.
graphics seen on this green
See,
wall
another area of-
come from here, Weather Center 5.
And the tools that we have are just mind-boggling to present the information on a visual standpoint. I want to show that a cold front is moving through New England, so just by hitting a couple of buttons, I can actually plot where the cold front is doing. You can see I'm putting down some C's, and by hitting D for draw, the computer will actually take the information that I fed into it and draw where the cold front is. It's fun to create animation that shows the front swinging through. It's fun to, create the animation that shows the precip swinging up the coast or the temperatures flying in. I mean, it's like a big computer game.
I think the New Englanders, appreciate weather as much as anybody in the country. Weather nowadays is a big story, really.
It's interesting, though, that certainly the long-range end of it has really blossomed in the past couple of years with these models that can go out as much as 10 days now,
Yeah, well, maybe we'll be making 10-day forecasts instead of 5-day forecasts.
Yeah, well, that'd be fun, huh? Oh, I bet.
Well, Dick, how would you like everyone trying to score your 10-day forecasts?
Oh, Karen, that would be ugly. I'll tell you, I can barely forecast for the next day. 10 days, I would not score well, I'll tell you that.
Well, speaking of forecasts, it's time for some more Channel 5 bloopers. Now, we aren't criticizing you and the weather guys, but to be truthful, you guys do end up quite a few times in that Channel 5 blooper tape.
Live from News Center 5, Eye Opener.
Good morning. It's 5:30 on this Tuesday, June 21st. I'm Brian Leary.
And I'm Jim Boyd. Susan Burke. Jim Boyd has the day off.
Thanks for joining us tonight. ABC Nightline with Ted Koppel coming up next. I'm Natalie Jacobson.
Actually, Natalie, it's Viewpoint tonight,
That's
but that's
right.
why I'm here.
Deliver me.
Thanks for
thank
joining
you,
us.
Chet.
We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you, Chet.
A lot of the money, all the money actually, $200,000 I think is the total now that Barry and Elliot have raised from Mom, has gone directly to Chronicle. Up to Chronicle.
With this live report from West Roxbury, I'm Steve Frazier, News Center 5. Susan and
John.
One of those folks. Reporting live from Salem, I'm Steve Frazier, News Center 5. Salem?
Thank you, Steve.
Hi, Salem. How are you?
And this study will obviously add to the, I can't believe it, I've got a mental block.
Now, First Night has had something for every age group, every taste. My colleague Maria, excuse me, I'm so cold.
Well, we'll have all the news, weather, sports, and proper pronunciations on News Center 5 at 6. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bye-bye now.
McPherson could not be reached for comment. Oh, hi.
Hello.
I didn't know you were there.
I know, you look so startled.
Let's check now with Bob Copeland and get an update for the last-minute details. Bob?
Yes, thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. We have a storm system down the coast.
Still a few spritzes of rain and snow through portions of New Hampshire. That phone call is probably for me. Wait a minute, hold on. Yes, I'll be home for Christmas, thank you. So, we see what else is going on.
You want to name names?
Terry Glenn.
There you go. That's right. Good example.
And he's one of my heroes.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, excuse me. Thank you for watching. Jim, back to you.
Do you remember Bob Ryan? He was one of Channel 5's weathermen back in the early years. Today, he's forecasting for WRC-TV in Washington, D.C. For 14 years, Emily Rooney managed behind the scenes of News Center 5, 3 years as our news director. Today, Emily has moved in front of the camera, hosting her own show, Greater Boston, on WGBH-TV. Stay with us, 25 and going strong. Many of the people who started WCVB are still here today. A salute when we come back. Hotel accommodations for 5 is 25, provided by the Boston Harbor Hotel, Boston's most elegant port, celebrating 10 years on the waterfront.
say we're. Everybody come on and say we're. New England Channel 5 together. Turning in together, Channel 5. Everybody come on and say we're. Turning in. Everybody come on and say we're. Turning in. Turning in. Everybody come on and say we're. Turning in.
For about half of WCVB's 25 years, our station has been owned by the Hearst Corporation. John Conomikes is here with me, and he is the general manager of the Hearst Broadcasting Group. It's such a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Heather, good seeing you again.
Yeah, great to see you too. You must be proud to be here tonight to celebrate our 25th anniversary.
Very much so. You know, the WCVB is the crown jewel in our broadcasting group from the very day that we purchased it in March of 1986. And we've been very hard working with everybody here that we keep local shows on the air, that we serve the community, and that we do things better not only than anybody in this market, but than anybody in the country. And it's the history of this station, and we've never wanted to change from the day that we bought it, and hopefully we can continue going that way in the future.
You know, while Channel 5 is always striving to produce the best newscasts in Boston, this station has a long tradition of producing some very effective public service campaigns.
We've been proud to be part of that. Take a look now as Karen Holmes Ward takes us back through some of our public service programming.
The relationship that was born here in 1972 between this television station and the community remains. And the belief that we have an obligation and a responsibility to understand our viewers and include them in our programming remains to this day.
One of the shows that I was involved in, we called it Third World. It remains on the air now. It's gone through several name changes. It's now called City Line.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about what Ebonics is. Is it a slang? Is it a dialect? Is it urban English?
Exploring the concerns of people of color, City Line covers it all, from the neighborhoods to cyberspace.
In good faith, ethics and morals.
But Channel 5's public service programming goes much further. In Good Faith examines the spiritual issues of the day, while 5 on 5 debates the headlines of the secular world.
Just for higher education as well.
This is the argument that we heard.
The management of WCVB, however, is not without an opinion, too. Channel 5 is the only Boston TV station offering editorials and rebuttal.
A recent Channel 5 editorial.
And politicians get a turn. Campaigns, debates, the state of the city, the state of the state, and last year, free airtime to the senatorial candidates. Broadcasts of big local events like Pops Goes the Fourth, Holiday at Pops, and the Boston Marathon are yet other examples of WCVB's continuing community commitment.
Give what you can and let this wonderful program continue.
Fundraising is another way WCVB contributes. In addition to national telethons, Channel 5 annually produces benefits for several local organizations, including the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
The only steps that you have to take are to the telephone and dial.
Another is Home for the Holidays for the Massachusetts Coalition for the Homeless, and major telethons for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, United Cerebral Palsy, and the Boston Genesis Fund.
One other aspect of this station that again set it apart from not only the other stations in this market, but I think in the country, were the public service campaigns that became a part of our personality at Channel 5. Success by 6, the most recent. Now we have the Health Beat Project, but then we had World of Difference, tremendously successful.
There was also Project Shelter, Great Expectations, and Don't Be Pushed. General Manager Paula Camera has been with WCVB since the beginning. Starting out as Public Service Director, he knows the value of a complete station-wide campaign.
What these allow us to do is muster the great resources of this television station, the news, the local programming, the promotional aspects, the public service resources we have, and direct them, channel them into one important community cause. And by doing that, we bring great attention to these issues, but also hopefully have an impact, make some change along the way.
Beyond public service campaigns, Channel 5 has a long and proud history of presenting special programs. The full range of Channel 5 programs, news, public service, and community programs, Chronicle and specials, have been recognized in New England and nationally. Last year, for the 10th time, WCVB won the coveted National Gabriel Award for Station of the Year.
To be a part of a station which is a truly committed station, its level of excellence has not dwindled at all, in my opinion, from the time we first went on the air as young, enthusiastic, and excited people about putting a television station on the air back in 1972 to today.
In some ways, many local stations throughout this country have grown away from what has been the traditional community services definition of a television station's performance. And we, on the other hand, have tried to hold true to those early commitments. It is part of the founding philosophy of this television station and remains today imbued in the spirit of what WCVB is 25 years later.
Now, there is one person responsible, perhaps more than anyone else, for this station's commitment to public service broadcasting. This man actually joined WCVB a month before it went on the air, March 19th, and he has been here ever since. He's now our Vice President and General Manager.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paula Camera.
You've been such great supporters and friends of this television station, and I can only hope that we, over the years, have been true to that friendship. Through this period of nostalgia, I've had a chance to, as I said, address the troops a couple of times, and the message I've tried to convey that it has really been my unimaginable pleasure and privilege to have been at this television station through its full 25 years. But even more importantly, to be a colleague of the magnificent on-air people, the managers, the professional and technical staff, which populates this television station. They are the people who have so exquisitely served this community every day over those 25 years. And excuse the cliche, but they are the best in the business. And to all those who are here tonight, thank you very much. I would only conclude with the thought or hope that even in these much changed and demanding times that WCVB will remain true to these past 25 years, and that we'll continue to do the best we can to serve you, our friends and colleagues and supporters, to serve our community, and most importantly, to serve our viewers. So again, on behalf of my colleagues at Channel 5, on behalf of Hearst Broadcasting, thank you for coming this evening and sharing this with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, thank you.
Paul has often said with characteristic modesty that he had a tough act to follow, following as he did in the footsteps of Bob Bennett and Jim Coppersmith. But Paul, you can be proud in knowing that you serve this community and this television station very well. And we look forward to working with you for many, many more years to come.
We're going to cut our cake now and say goodbye to you folks and to our audience. And none of this would be possible if you hadn't been part of WCVB for these past 25 years. So thank you for joining us tonight and on all of the nights of the year and when you join us for WCVB.
And before we say goodnight, and as we cut the cake, we're going to leave you with a look at some of the 48 people, all of the 48 people who have been here since the very beginning for all of the 25 years of WCVB TV. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Nobody does it better. Makes me feel sad for
like show business, like no business I know.
No business like it, everything about it is appealing.
Why, it's grand.
Everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling.
You're a smash.
When you are stealing that extra bow. These are days you remember. Never before and never since. I promise. Everybody is a star. I can feel it when you shine on me. Nobody does it half as good as you. Baby, baby, darling, you're the best. Baby, you're the best. Baby, you're the
Good morning, world. This is WCVB TV, Channel 5, Boston.
I think you can appreciate that I have tremendous affection for WCVB. I have tremendous passion for this place. I grew up here. I was a young girl in my 20s when I started. I got married here. I had a baby here. I lost a mother here. This audience has grown up with me.
25 years now. It's hard to believe it's 25 years. That's as long as I've ever stayed in one place at any time, and it's sort of mind-boggling.
It's just been an extremely exciting opportunity for me personally to be a part of all of the changes that have gone on here over the last 25 years.
It's gone by very quickly. It is 25 years, and it seems like it's 5 years, really. It's amazing how quickly it's gone.
Stations come and go, they rise and fall, but 5 has maintained its dominant position in this market from a standpoint of public service and also news and programming for all of these years. And I don't think many stations can look back on 25 years and say they've accomplished as much as Channel 5 has.
They've never slackened off, you know, they've always been in the vanguard. They're always the point television station in the city when it comes to news and public affairs. It's simply the way it is because they were working very hard at it all during that period of time, and they've guarded that very, very closely, and they're very proud of it, and justifiably so.
Well, it's been a good run for 25 years, and it's been fun.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thanks.